Tanakh more often. So the reason why in the past they did not learn Tanakh more often, there's basically two reasons. One reason is because the Gemara says that you're supposed to learn, or you divide up your day of learning Torah into three parts. Shlish b'mikra, shlish b'mishnah, shlish b'talmud. A third of your day should be involved in Tanakh, a third of your day should be involved in Mishnah, and a third of your day should be involved in Talmud. So Talmud means Pilpulim and what we call Gemara. However, Rabbeinu Tam says that the word Talmud Bavli, besides Bavli meaning from the place of Bavel, Bavli also means mixed up, or Balul, that it's a mix, it has in it everything. It has Mikra and Mishnah. So Rabbeinu Tam therefore said this rule doesn't apply today of learning. It's only before the Gemara was written that rule apply of learning a third Mikra, a third Mishnah, and a third Talmud. Instead, today you should learn just Talmud, because Talmud has in itself everything. So this is one explanation why in the past there wasn't such a need to learn Tanakh for itself, because when you learned Gemara you ended up learning Psukim as well. Another reason which happened about 200 years ago is there was the Maskilim. There were a group of Yidden that Nebuch, they were memish against Yiddishkeit, the whole story. And these Yidden, they went and they convinced children to go away from their homes and to go to learn in the Goyish schools, and they contaminated their minds. It's a very, very long story of how they did it, how their whole plan was. It's actually just today in the Chumash test just now, the question of Ayachra Yitzchak Haroya D'Gdoila. So the answer is that the reason why Yitzchak was so afraid is because he saw Gehenim opening up under Esav. And that story, in that Arichus, that's actually one of the things that happened, that when this person, his name was Shimon HaKofer, so he came into the Alter Rebbe to try to convince the Alter Rebbe also about his greatness. So the Alter Rebbe asked him, when you teach children this pasuk, how do you teach it? He says he doesn't say that pshat. How can a big Gehenim fit in such a small room? In any event, the Maskilim, one of their powers, one of their strategies is that they came with a very thorough knowledge of Tanakh and a very thorough knowledge of Dikduk. So since they were the ones that most people did not know Tanakh well or Dikduk well, so therefore they were able to show that they know how to learn better than everybody else. So after the Klal Yisrael was burnt by them, when they saw what these people really did, they became very weary, very nervous. Any person that was very into Tanakh or into Dikduk, they were very afraid. And therefore, it became a thing to stay away from Tanakh and Dikduk. So that's the reason. That reason doesn't really apply today anymore with Pashtus, but that was the reason. And the other reason, what I said before, is that the Gemara has everything. At the same time, it's definitely a thing to do. And Adarabeh, if a Bachrim want to learn Tanakh, there's always Bachrim throughout the years that learn Tanakh in their own time. But the general yeshiva setting goes according to Rabbeinu Tam, that Talmud Bavli has in itself everything. Next question, can you make a Misha Beirach for Trump? So actually, in the Siddur, this is the old Siddurim. In the Siddur, this is old Siddurim. There's so many new Siddurim, but these Siddurim, on the Shabbos davening, between the Yukum Purkon and then from the Birkas HaChodesh, there's almost just small letters over here that are telling us different instructions about the Resh Chodesh, Chadoshim, and so on. And the older prints, at this piece over here, there was a Misha Beirach for the President of the United States. And if I'm not mistaken, the Frierdiker Rebbe is the one that instituted it. Until today, many Chabad houses have a Seder where they make a Misha Beirach for the President. So it's an accepted thing. I'm not sure why it was taken out. There's probably a history behind it, but it's definitely okay. And it's not for Trump, it's for whoever the President is. In all the years, whoever the President was, there are Chabad houses that every year, no matter if they agree with the President or not, at the end of the day, he is the one that the Eibishter appointed to be in charge of this country, and therefore they make a Misha Beirach for him, and the Pashas is something which is okay.
Can we do it here?
What?
Can we do it here?
No.
We'll do it.
So they don't say his mother's name, just say the President, that's it. How far does the din of Dina de Malchusa Dina go? Are you over if you speed on the road, or if you drink underage? So I actually did some research to look it up, and it seems like indeed, yes, Dina de Malchusa Dina applies to any reasonable law. However, there's one prat which makes it makes it very, very gray, and that is any law that the law enforcement enforce. That's a kind of law which is under the rule of Dina de Malchusa Dina. So, if you're driving the speed limit is 55 miles per hour, and you're going 60 miles per hour, I would say that 99.9% of police officers will not stop you. even 100%, but just in case there would be, but derech klal you won't be stopped. If you go, when it's 55, if you go 65, that already depends on the state, depends on the city, depends where you are. Some places they will, some places they won't. So the places where even the police will see you and they will not stop you, that means that even the government agrees this is not a real law. So such a kind of speeding is not included in the rule of Dina de Malchus Adin. However, if you're speeding, let's say if it's 55 and you're going 75, then I think everyone would stop you, and therefore that would be included in the Isser. And besides the Sakana aspect of it, there's also a problem of Dina de Malchus Adin. Regarding drinking underage, is the same thing. Some places they're going to go around and anybody that's slightly tipsy, so the police will stop him and try to interrogate him. And some places they're going to be more lenient about it. So if the Dina, the Malchusa that you're in, is enforcing this law, then in addition to the Isser of, if it's something which makes sense, so to speak, it's also connected to the Isser of Dina, the Malchusa Dina. I think that in Postville they'll be makbid. If they see you drunk, they're going to make problems. So besides the Chil Hashem aspect, there's another problem as well. What can a bacher do to bring Mashiach on a day-to-day basis? So when I saw the question, I hoped that I wouldn't have to answer the question. I hope that by the time that Q&A comes, the Mashiach will be here already. But a lot of times people have these kind of questions. Okay, let's make a achada. For the next 3 years, we're going to do so and so to bring Mashiach. So the whole concept of Mashiach coming is so foreign, people don't even realize how absurd that is. On a day-to-day basis, like we're going to live now for another 20 years in Gola, so we have to figure out every day what to do for Mashiach. Our hope is that right now Mashiach should walk in, this second should walk in. There's a story, I think it's Rabbi Reitz's his father, Alav Shalom, that he was once outside in 770, he was talking to some friends about how Mashiach is going to come, how it's going to be, and the Rebbe opened the door, the Rebbe said, just like that. Suddenly, just that's you have to appear. Akopani, but the question is still a valid question. As long as we are in Golos, we have to do whatever we can to bring Mashiach. And the answer is Torah mitzvahs bichlal, but specifically, the only thing that Rebbe added specifically is to learn in Yonei Gula Mashiach. This famous Sikhat of Shnonav that we spoke about, that learning in Yonei Gula Mashiach, that's the derech hayishara, the straight and direct path to bring Mashiach. So that's the thing that you're looking to add to bring Mashiach. You should be learning in Yonei Gula Mashiach. Learning in Yonei Gula Mashiach, that itself means you can learn the Rambam on Hilchas Mashiach, and then you can learn the Gemara in Masechtas Sanhedrin, the Perek Chelik. There's a lot of things about Mashiach, and then the Sichas of the Rebbe, Tovshin on Aleph and on Beis, and then Bechlal, Chassidus in general can also be included in Gula Mashiach. Chassidus talks about Ein Sof, the Giluyim of Ein Sof, which is going to happen when Mashiach comes. We're going to see all that Begilui. What's best, to daven solo brachas or to daven with a fast minyan and say amen to everything? Not exactly sure what the options are, but b'derech klal it's best to daven slowly and say every word, and even though the minyan's ahead of you, you should continue at your own pace. I'm not sure if the bacher meant something else, and to write it again more clear. But in general, that's the rule. There's a famous in Sefer HaMenhagim, it says over there that the Hairah for people that want to daven barichas is they should even wait till after the minyan is finished, and they should answer Amen and Kaddish and everything, and only afterwards to begin davening. So that doesn't apply to everybody, but definitely to start davening and daven slow, that's definitely a for everybody. The Rebbe even once told somebody that your machshava zaras and davening should be, where is the chazan up to? Like you should be davening with the minyan at your own pace. You should wonder, did he get ahead of you? How far ahead of you is he? There's a few questions that came in about me personally, and I threw out a whole bunch of them because I already said that questions about me I'm not chayiv to answer. But just a few questions that Bachar are asking. What's your opinion on black holes or the Mariana Trench? You know what it is? Black holes are some kind of unexplained phenomena in outer space, and the Mariana Trench is the deepest part of the Pacific Ocean. What's my opinion? My opinion is this is Niflois HaBeira. This just shows how much great the Eibishter is, and that we're so much that science doesn't know and doesn't understand. And you're learning about these things, noticing about these things, that appreciates the belief of the Eibishter. Second question was, can I have a debate with Rabbi Eli? So there's a program, there's an idea that's come up with an Angola trying maybe another mitzvah something to do something called debates in the secular schools, is a concept called debating, where the students get up and debate different topics. So we have this idea to have debates in the yeshiva. For example, longer pious versus short pious, or other things like that, other inyanim in Yiddishkeit and Chassidishkeit and so on. And if we end up doing those debates, then maybe we'll volunteer to do one between me and him. But the derech klal, we agree on most topics, so it's going to be a bit hard for us. Huh? Instead of kluger. It's going to be in addition to kluger if it happens. Last question about me. Do you like living in Postville? I think that in Golus, the best place in the world in Golus is Postville. There's no other better place in the world. I had this argument with many people. Any mature person that listens to my arguments agrees to me that it's the healthiest place to live. Immature people and other kinds of people also disagree. There's a certain individual reasons why people might disagree, but for the most part, in Golus, this is the best place in the world to live. And whoever lives in Postville and disagrees with me is going against the Gemara. And whoever doesn't live in Postville and agrees with me is also going against the Gemara. Because the Gemara says, Chein mokim al Yeshua. The Gemara says, there's a story in the Gemara with Yericho, that the city of Yericho, there was a tkufa, that it was very bad, people were sick, there was no water to drink, and they called Elisha Hanavi for help, and they told Elisha it was such a great place to be. So the Gemara asks, if there's such the people themselves were saying how terrible it is, how can they at the same time say such a good place? So the Gemara answers, Chein mokim al Yeshua. At the Teva, the Eibush Taimid is when a person lives somewhere, he likes the place that he lives. So B'meila, that's how it goes. You go against the Gemara, tough on you. There's also a cloud, the grass is always greener on the other side. People think that if they live somewhere else, it'll be so much better. But this is the time as well. Before Gimel Tammuz, I wouldn't argue with you, but after Gimel Tammuz, then there's now it's already, you have a good point. That's the only other place that I would think of. But that's the last place that I have to argue with. Because no one else comes to tell me Kranitz is the best place to live. No one ever said that to me. Huh? Yeah, you have a point. Before Gimel Tammuz, there's no doubt that there would be an argument. After Gimel Tammuz, there's already is an argument, but it's not the kind of arguments that I have to fight with. Huh? Eretz Yisrael is Golus. The worst Golus is in Eretz Yisrael. If that's your shlichus, that's where you have to go. Okay, there's two questions that came up all the time. It's probably came a few times already. The problem with non-Jewish music and Goyish music and pop, hip-hop, whatever it is. So whoever wants, it was an article now in the Hatomim, it was in English, it was floating around at the tables. I wanted to bring it, I forgot, but if whoever is asking this question, Rabbi Jacobson, Mashpia in Crown Heights, so he wrote a whole long thing about it with Pratim. So whatever I have to say is said over there, Barichis G'daylo, so we're not going to go into it again. Huh? No. Shalom, I think his name is.
Why are you laughing? His name is English Simon. Why? Okay, so let him go.
Is a gun considered a levush? There's a whole long arichas over here about other attended hard to understand the handwriting.
Oh, gun.
It's an unclear question, but in short, the halachas of a gun. So in Shmira Shabbos Kilchasa and Perek Mamalif, in halachas Chavtes Lamed Aleph, he talks about guns, and he says in a place where there's danger, you're allowed to carry a gun, and even outside of an Eruv. And he says that if possible, you should take the gun derech levishosei, in a way of a lavush, which means you should drape it around your shoulder, the waist like a lavush. This way it should be as minimal chilul Shabbos as possible. So for Sheisach, only in such a place where there's a need for it. When it comes to shuls today, unfortunately, we're in Golus, so therefore, and every shul today is has a reason to be chayshish, so that's why most shuls today, there are people that carry guns. Some places the Rabbanim say they can carry it walking from home to shul and shul to home. And in some places, the way I understand it, in Postville is officially a secret. It's one of the official secrets that everybody knows about, is that in the shul in Postville, there are a number of people that have guns over there in the shul, So it's safe. Regarding the yeshiva, no comment.
2 years ago, yeah. Larry.
Not going to go. I didn't see that question. So write it again, and we'll do our research for the show. How are you meant to respect someone who treats you very, very tough? If a teacher or mashgiach is very tough on you and maybe calls you names, how can you respect him? So the answer is that when you respect somebody, you respect him not because he's a perfect person, because there are no perfect people. And therefore, the halachas of respecting your teacher, for example, respecting your father. So let's just I'll talk about fathers because it's simpler. Respecting your father doesn't mean that you have to think that your father is God's gift to humanity. Your father can be a person with limitations, with problems, and seichel and midas. And you have a mitzvah to honor him. Even though your father might beat you or might call you names, it doesn't take away from the mitzvah of kibbutz. The mitzvah of kibbutz is the Eibusher said, this is the person that gave birth to you, so therefore you have an obligation to honor him. And the honoring, the ikar mitzvah of honoring is in Payel Mamish. There is a mitzvah of honoring a pnimistic kovid, but that, just like in general, in Taryag mitzvahs, it's more about the levushim. What you have to do. Taryag mitzvahs in general are mitzvahs of Maisa. There are some mitzvahs of Chayvas Alavavis, but Pashtus, the mitzvah of honoring your teacher and honoring your parent is not included in the mitzvahs Chayvas Alavavis, although there might be a source to say so. But Pashtus, honoring means not to be chutzpahdik, not to sit in his chair, and so on. And those things apply to a teacher as well. Someone that teaches you Torah, even though he can be very rough with you, and he can call you names, and that the Torah is wrong, with Pashtus it's wrong. Nevertheless, the obligation on your end is to honor him just the same, because it's not about thinking that he's a special person. It's about halacha l'poyel. And therefore, it can shaykh to any person that teaches you, can still get the same cover. Huh? If there's a chayv to give, it's a different question. The question wasn't who do you have to give cover to. The question was someone that you have to give him cover. If he treats you in a harsh kind of way, how can you give him cover? That's a different question. Is there a chiyuv to give cover to a mashgiach?
Probably teaches you.
The question is what does covet mean? Again, there's different halachas in covet. I have to think about it. They get into the sugya, but it's sometimes part of the covet is to be mechabed the ones that are telling you to be covet.
What about pro counselors? Do you respect them?
You have to listen to what they say.
But you don't have to respect them, right?
What does respecting mean? You have to respect every person. Every person has to be respectful to other people. A person shouldn't be shouting in the hallway. It's not respectful to anybody. It shouldn't be.
You guys have to be respectful to you.
Two wrongs don't make a right. Every person has to take care of himself to be a mensch. And just because someone else is not a mensch doesn't justify someone else's behavior. Question: can we start a Mishnayos Baal Peh Mivtza? I'm all for it. If someone wants to make such a Mivtza, I'll gladly participate. Tell me how much you're giving me for every 10 lines. I get reds or blues or browns. If anybody wants to make any kind of mitzvah, you want to come and put it together. You want me to make such a mitzvah right now? I'm not holding by making a mitzvah Mishnayos Baal Peh. I one time tried it. It didn't really take off. If somebody, a bacher comes with a whole plan, and he has a whole how it should work, and he just wants me to either participate in the money or the testing, something like that, and I'm willing to sit down and go through it with him. But for me to go think through a whole program and prepare a whole mitzvah, I'm echadish by them. But if you want to, then adrab. And bechlal, many yeshivas, you should know, many yeshivas, bacher make mitzvahs on their own. Even yeshivas with good shluchim, and your shluchim make mitzvahs, the bacher also make mitzvahs. So it's not a stira. So a bacher could go and make a mitzvah for Mishnayos Baal Peh, and maybe the shluchim will also participate, and the bacher will give the shluchim prizes. Next question. Do Ashkenazim believe in Ayin Hara? And how is the Hamsa supposed to help? All Yidden believe in Ayin Hara because the concept of Ayin Hara is mentioned in Tanakh and Chazal. It's all over the place. However, Chazal also tell us that someone that's not makpid in imoy, someone that himself doesn't really take it to heart, doesn't care about it, so in many cases it won't affect him either. At the same time, I already mentioned the story in the past over here, that there was one time in the yeshiva in Postville, there was a father that came to visit the yeshiva, and he spoke to me about his son, and he praised the son very much. He was an Ashkenazi, and he's I can even say a cynical kind of person that doesn't believe in much. And right after Shabbos, when after he left, his son had a very terrible medical procedure. His father had to come right back. It was a very scary story. So, and I spoke to him afterwards, and he says, now I believe in Ein Orah. So, Akoponim, even though he was a person that was not makbid. How is the Hamsa supposed to help? The Hamsa is not clear the origins of the Hamsa. Some say it comes from Fatima. Who was Fatima? Huh? Wife or daughter? It's Jewish wife or Jewish daughter? I think it was the daughter. Whatever, from Muhammad. Some people say, huh? What? Probably both. Both, yeah, the two names, the same one. So it's not clear where the source is from. It is brought down in some Svardim, but I don't know if these Svardim, if the pictures that come in over there have a true source or not. But that's for sure not in Minhag Ashkenaz to use the Hamsas. And how does it help? It does. I don't know how it helps, but Bechlal, there's a concept of a Kameya. A Kameya, Rabbi Shimon just said a story today with the Berditchever. He wrote up Satzetl over there. Peaceful Ishar Shemayim, Gan Eden. Sometimes the thing that a tzaddik writes something and it's with someone that gives him protection. So there are certain things that have written down in Yonim that there could have a certain koyach. How exactly it works, I don't know, and I don't think it's shaykh to know. These are things I'll pick up over if it's like if whatever the Hamsa has a true source. Hashem made the Jewish people His chosen nation. So why did the Jewish people suffer for over 3,000 years? So there's no good answer to the question, because nothing can justify the Yidden suffering. But the explanation that you might get is two explanations. One explanation would be what we say in davening, Musaf Shalosh Hagolim, Mipnei Chatoinu Galinu Me'artzeinu. So that's not an acceptable answer, because even though Yidden sinned, it still doesn't justify the amount of suffering we went through. But that some people might give as an answer. Maybe in the beginning a little bit of punishment made sense. Second answer, which also according to Chassidus also doesn't make sense, is that it's all for us to get better. In order for Hashem to give us the big reward, just like everything, you have to work hard in order to get a reward. So in order to get the schar of l'asad love, you have to work hard. And part of the working hard is going through suffering. Also doesn't make sense, because the suffering is way too much, and there is no justifiable reason for Yidden to suffer, and therefore, Daloi Golus. Good Tavach.